Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back for another ABTC pilot plant construction update for February 15th, 2022 for the ABTC pilot plant out in Fernley, Nevada. We had some very exciting developments the past few weeks. I'm sure most of you have already seen some of these photos, but if you haven't, tilt-up walls are completed, so you can see all of the tilt-up walls for the pilot plant phase 1 production building are standing up. The temporary slabs that they were poured on have been removed, and you can see that the soil around the building has been graded and compacted back to its kind of original state. So any of these tread marks you see in the dirt here, that is just compaction from their compaction machine. So this is a basic overview of the phase 1 pilot plant layout, and keep in mind that phase 2 is going to be over to the left side of this photo here, and then the office building is going to be out front here, and then there'll also be a warehouse that's not shown in the bottom of this photo, and then another warehouse across the street. So that is 3 additional buildings on this site and then 1 across the street. So still a lot of construction to go. This is just one part of the overall site. So looking at the layout here, we have 4 main areas. The first is the sorting area over here in the bottom right, shown in red, about 7,000 square feet. And you can see that there are 3 truck docks here and then 1 large overhead door. So this is mainly where material will be moved into and out of the facility and stored until it's ready for processing or refinement. Next up is the process area. This is the largest area of the plant. This is where all of the black mass production will take place, where the shredding of the batteries and the separation will take place in the process area. The pilot bay is over here. This is the smallest area of the phase 1 facility. I am not too sure on the full purpose of the pilot bay. My best guess is it's going to be an area where they can test new and different configurations. After all, this is a pilot plant and the process is going to be fairly fluid. So if they want to test certain machinery or certain extraction techniques, they could probably do that here in the pilot bay. Inside the pilot bay, I do want to point out, is also going to be the electrical room. So there is a small chunk of this pilot bay that actually will be designated for electrical equipment. And then we have the water treatment building here in blue, roughly 9,000 square feet. And that'll house a lot of the water treatment chemicals and tanks and all of that. We'll take a look at that here in a few slides. So now taking a look at a top-down view of the same layout, you can see the differences in kind of the square footage of each area. So once again, blue is process, and you can see actually in these photos, we touched on this in one of the first videos, but you'll see the trench drain, which now I'm even more confident is a trench drain that goes around the perimeter of each room and into their collection pits. So you see one here for the process, there's one down here in the pilot, there's one in the water treatment, and there's one in the sorting area. So that would just collect any hazardous spills or chemicals or anything that leaks out can be captured and brought to a designated collection point. Here is an overlay of the plot plan, and it's showing pretty much the same thing, just in a little more detail. So just pointing out a few things. Here in the sorting area, you can see that they'll have a clear space for forklifts and moving things around out of the delivery trucks here. And then they'll have a racking system, standard warehouse equipment for storing material. The one thing I wanted to point out in the process area is anywhere you see this gray is actually, there's a note right here, if you can't read that, it says shaded area is mezzanine above. So what that basically means is there is somewhat of a second story in this area, and you can see the stairs on each side as well. That also points to that. So really the space is almost double than what you kind of initially think it is, because there'll be the ground floor and then there'll be a mezzanine level. And if you haven't seen a mezzanine level or you're not familiar with it, here are some examples. This one is going to be a bit larger than the ones I'm showing here, and of course these are not the ABTC site if you can't tell, but these are just examples. They'll probably look something a little similar to this, where you can locate some tanks or equipment up on the second floor and get some more floor space freed up below it. And then you have the pilot bay down here, and over on the left side you'll see this little box down here. That is the electrical room. So there'll be some switchboards and switchgear in here. Here is a shot of the exterior of the building, and I just wanted to point out a few things here. You can still see the braces inside, so those braces will stay around for a while until they get all the structural steel in place to add additional support. So each of these tilt-up walls has to be connected to either the slab or the footer that they poured. So there's a few different methods they'll use depending on the wall, if it's an interior wall or an exterior wall, but they will each have to be tied via some rebar or embedded plate connection to the footer. So that is currently what they're working on now, and that'll provide one avenue of structural support, and then the other avenue that they need to install is the structural steel, which will provide some additional support from things like wind and other loading that the wall will experience. So once that structural steel is in place, then they can come back and remove all of these bracing and get them out of there. Another exciting thing in this photo is these right here. So these are portable welders, which kind of point to some of the embedded plate welding for attachment of some of these interior walls. So these welders will get used for that, but they'll also be used for the structural steel process. Alright, so taking a look at the Gantt chart, the next thing up is structural steel. And we can complete tilt-up panels, and we completed form pour panels for the tilt-up walls, obviously, last week. So when they tilted up the walls, they were exactly 2 days ahead of schedule. So I'm going to keep showing it at 5 days from now. There's a little gap there, but it really points to how close the tolerance on this Gantt chart is, with being that close to milestone from when this was created about 5 or 6 months ago. So I have a pretty high confidence in the remaining schedule here, and hopefully we see them continue to track with this schedule. As you can see, structural steel is about a month-long activity, starting February 16th, extending to late March. And what that will look like is something similar to this. And once again, this is not the site. This is just an example photo, just to be clear on that. But what they'll be doing is installing columns. They'll be installing these braces and girders across the spans of the structure, and then they'll also be installing the mezzanine structure inside of the building as well. Once they get that completed, they'll start on the roof structure, and then we'll start seeing the building be closed up and equipment starting to arrive on site. So a lot of activity coming up, and it's going to start looking even more like a building and a production facility. So it's going to be very exciting to see photos starting to come in of equipment showing up here in the next month or so, and some of the roofing materials and structural steel we know we've already seen on site. So they should be well underway with this process, and we'll make sure to keep you updated on any changes in schedule and what's up next. Alright, and if you haven't, go ahead and check out abtcstock.com. This is the website I run to provide some of this additional information for the pilot plant facility. I recently gave a facelift this past weekend, so go ahead and check out the new updates. I've added a stock widget here and some additional live widgets to show progress of the pilot plant that get updated each week, and then some social items down here below. But if you wanted to view the Gantt chart yourself, you can just go to pilot plant schedule. You can see the days ahead of schedule, the progress, and then you can view the Gantt chart and zoom in if you want to, but go ahead and check out the site. Let me know if you have any comments or if you want to see anything different. And that's actually how this widget got in there, is someone suggested adding a widget, so I added it. So let me know if you want to see anything else on here, and I'll try my best to get it incorporated. All right, thanks everybody for watching.